So let's take a look at texturing our door. Like I said before, the first thing I want to do is bake out the ambient occlusion. So I'm going to go to Bake Textures, and I'm going to go to 2048. I'm going to find my door model. Now something I noticed is I actually just placed this, duplicated this door from the last, when I was in Maya, I unwrapped it and duplicated it. I should have flipped the door. Now the reason is because right now when I go to bake out the ambient occlusion, you're going to notice that the shadow that it bakes off of this is going to be copied right here, just like there. So let's go ahead and hit bake and see what happens. And now you can see that this shadow is actually the shadow from this handle here. So I'll include it in this video how to fix that. And you're going to notice it's on the other side too. So let's take a look. Even though this is a cartoony game, let's add some roughness in there. So let's go ahead and throw down a base color. Let's go with a gray, like a light gray. And this is going to be our base to sort of build off of. And then what we want to do is let's find a really cool material that, I don't know, whatever. Let's do pure brass above it. So our door is like now pure brass. And we're not going to be using a lot of this. We're just going to use this as an undertone. Actually, I kind of like this one better for cartooniness. Okay, some copper. Actually, maybe this guy. It doesn't matter. Find one that you like. I kind of like that one. What we're going to do is we're going to add a generator to this. And what it's going to do is it's going to use the ambient occlusion and the curvature map to blend or mask out the areas where the edges are, right? So right now, we see the ambient occlusion pretty subtle, and we're going to add a baked lighting then. That's going to really push our AO. So first, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add a generator. Now the thing you have to understand is generators are used in combination with a mask. So think about masks, the same thing if you're familiar with Photoshop's masks. Whatever you paint in with black or white, white is visible, black is not. So if I go in here and I add a black mask, notice that it hides our entire copper layer. So what I'm going to do next is on my, I'm going to go back and add that generator. It looks like I deleted it. That generator, and I'm going to go in here, you're going to see that there's a couple generators. There's this fiber. This is like edge wear. And notice that it's finding my edges. More, like you can see here, a little bit more pronounced. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close this generator. I'm going to add another generator. And I'm going to look for, let's kind of close this out. I think we just type in UI generator, or do we just type in generator? Let's type in generator. There we go. And it gives us a few of our generators. So this is our dirt. This is fiber light. This is. You can see here the effect it's going to give you. I like this one, the metal edge worn. And notice back in here that it actually wore out the edges around my model. So you can see the edge of the door here, things like that. And you can actually add. If we right-click here, we can add a paint layer. What the paint layer does is, based on the grayscale, we can go in and further. So I go to alpha here. Let's go ahead and select the brush. Let's do veins, for example. I can go in here a little bit, and I can further add wear to edges underneath it. So I'm kind of painting in on that. So there might be there's got to be a better brush than that. Sort of mold. Let's see, let's try that guy. Something like that. And if you have your sensitivity on your brush up. But also there's the generator itself, right? So notice if I increase my wear contrast, it's kind of like the intensity of it. So if I bring it down, notice how it really brings that out. And then wear level, the more I increase that, the more pronounced it is. The grunge amount is the grunge there. And then the grunge scale is the size of the scale. Edge smoothness will really smooth that out. I like to kind of keep it relatively low, and then I'm going to increase my ambient occlusion mapping. Now notice that it says the curvature weighting. If I bring this down, you'll notice that it decreases the amount of blend because it's actually using the curvature map that we baked out earlier. See that? All right. And again, you can increase the grunge amount, the wear level, and depending on how much wear, let's bring the contrast up a little bit. You can really make this go nuts and then really offshoot the contrast. So really it's kind of like maybe this area was the most, I don't know, like Leo and his siblings really effed up the front of this thing or something. So, so that kind of looks pretty good. Let's kind of increase that a little bit on scale. There we go. Looks cool. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is, and honestly, one other thing that's pretty cool is I can stack generators. So I can go to add another generator, and it's adding it there. And I want to make sure that this one, I'm going to go ahead and delete that paint layer. But I want to make sure that this one is on overlay. And what that'll do is that'll blend between them. And on this generator, I can add that other, this fiber one. And let's do screen. Yeah, screen is the one I'm looking for, not overlay. So you can see here that it adds a lot more scratches. It almost looks comic bookish. Oh, I added the fiberglass. What I wanted was the other one. Let's see. Let's right click in here, add generator, make sure that's on screen. Go down here and actually let's try dirt. Yeah, dirt. Oh yeah, the dirt's the guy I want. Okay, so I can decrease the dirt level. And what it's doing again is it's just kind of giving me a little bit more wear around those edges, which I like. Increase that contrast just a little bit so it's not so pronounced. All right. Now something else I want to show you is I want this to glow. It's sort of in an off position, and I would apply another texture on it and switch the texture between open and close. So what I want to do is, in my channels here, notice that I have base, color, metallic. This all correlates in here. I'm going to go ahead and add emissive, which is here. And that emissive texture it's kind of a glowing texture. So with emissive on, I'm going to go ahead underneath here. I'm going to add another fill layer. And the base color of that fill layer is going to be a bright blue. Something like this. And so let's go a little brighter. And what I want to do is I'm going to turn off color, normal, metal, all this stuff, except for emissive. And I'm going to try to sample that color that I was looking at earlier. So maybe a little bit, oops, like this. And I don't want it to be too bright where I'm losing my AO. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a mask to that. So I'm going to add a black mask. And in my grayscale attributes, I'm going to hit the 4 key, or you can click up here. I'm just going to select that face and turn that back on. So now we have that glowing panel. And again, you can adjust the amount of mist in this. What I want to do is eventually I'm going to bake that out. If we go to View and Views, let's see, Toolbars, Views. It looks like we have viewer settings open down here. You can see here that we have emissive intensity. I can increase or decrease my intensity. And notice that it does affect, I don't know if the recording is translating, it does affect the area around it. So let's do the AO intensity so you can kind of see that. And I'm going to leave the opacity down. Let's go back here. So all of these settings get baked out. All right? And then honestly, I can use that to kind of paint in other areas of the room. All right, so let's do this really quick. So in that same emissive area, down at the bottom, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and hit 1, and I'm going to select a different kind of brush here. Maybe this guy. I'm going to go ahead and just harden my brush up. And I want to make sure that I'm on UV here. And maybe there's like some cool decals, right, that kind of sit on top of the door. And what I'm going to do too is I want those to sit inside the door. So under the emissive area here, I'm just going to turn on height, and I'm going to bring that all the way down. And then I'll go back over here and just kind of like decrease my brush size, and just maybe I have like some cool like sci-fi effect stuff like this. All right, just to kind of have them in there, and then we'll have like Leo written at the top. I don't know, I'm just kind of winging it right now. So let's go ahead and play with some effects on that. So let's go to View here, Help Plugins, Toolbars, Views. Oh, under Display Settings, rather. Turn on Activate Post Effects. And what you'll see is there's all this other stuff. When I turn on Glare, to bring that in just a little bit. And I turn on anti-aliasing. Just kind of play with a bunch of these. Depth of field. Let's bring up on our glare a little bit. You can see here if I bring my threshold up just trying to find that nice balance, you can see that I get a lot of that glowing or that effect inside the view. Let's kind of bring this down a little bit and then play with our threshold. Just trying to strike a nice balance so that we get that lighting baked or affecting that area around it. So something like this, a little bit better like that. So now when we bake it out, we'll have that kind of posted on the door. Let me increase my luminance a good amount and then my threshold down. And then what I'm going to do is let's go back to our viewer settings, and then just on that emissive intensity, I'm going to bring that down a little bit.